Okay, finally, we get to start rebuilding this. Now, there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm waiting for the Gliptol to cure over here on the heating element. I've got the boiler clean. When you see a rebuild essay, all of a sudden it's just like magic that it happens. But it goes together little by little. I like to rebuild the various components and have them ready, then hang the boiler on the machine, and it's just like magic. All of a sudden it's done. But this is, now we start to put this back together. I didn't lose the screw. Alright, so first we'll do the steam. And this is very simple, as you see, not very many parts with this one. But we take the screw and we get it started through this seal. This process, now that you have all the parts cleaned, is much cleaner, tidier. And I just push that screw through and use the entire seal as a little knob and get that screw started. And you get it straightened in there. There it went in. I get it started. And I find that same screwdriver that I used to take the screw out. And you remember when I said I was going to put some Dow 111 on the end of that thing?
I do recall you mentioned that.
Let me start over here. Okay, Dow 111. This is our universal lubricant. This is the format that a lot of people are familiar with. A little, what is that, 6-gram packet?
Yes.
This is the lifetime supply. The giant tube, which if you're just doing one machine, I take a tube and I put it in a jar. So I just kind of have a little thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just to say we aren't going to have that stuck again. Now I start over here. And rather than using any kind of anti-seize or whatever that has questionable food safe value, I just go ahead and this, you hold the cup in your fingers, push in on the screw, and it will start to bury itself down in that seal, which is what you want to do, but it bottoms out like that. Okay, now we take our O-ring. This prevents the steam from escaping back through the knob in a probe. You take this and you fit it down into that little race. Get it started. Now I take a little bit of my Dow 111 and I just kind of put it right on that seal. Just a glob of it, because it's going to turn around and spread. Insert it here, and you'll turn it, and you'll feel it when it hits. I've got a working knob. You can use the knob that comes off of the machine as a tool. Now, once you have a new seal, don't over tighten it. You can go, I can go at least another half a turn, but it's sealed. It's got that nice fresh Viton down in there. You just take it down like that. And this is your retainer nut. 17 millimeter. Tighten it up by hand, don't over tighten it. Steam one's done. We set that aside. Now, a maintenance issue that often gets overlooked is the pressure safety valve. This is a little bit awkward to deal with, because you have to hold it with one 17 millimeter wrench and then loosen this nut with the second 17. See, I've taken that and I've put one 17 mm on the bench, and I've got this other one here, and squeeze them together. Just squeeze the two like a pair of scissors, and you can loosen that up. Alright, now when you take this off, you look in the top and you see where this is set. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 visible threads. Okay, that was their set. This comes off with a 5mm hex, which is either in this format that most people are familiar with, but I've got these straight handles that I kind of like. And you take out the set block. There's the spring, the set block. Alright, now this has got a cup, and it's got a silicone disc. And one time out of I don't know how many machines, one time have I seen that disc that it's been flipped. You can use both sides of this disc. You don't necessarily need a new part. So you take a nice sharp probe and you just poke it into the surface. This is not glued or anything, it's just sitting in there. And you poke it in and you pull it out. And you examine the other side. The other side is completely smooth. Right? So you can use that side for your seal. This is high temp silicone. This has got a ring on it. This has got a place where it's been depressed onto the seat. The other side is completely flat and smooth. You can either buy a new part or you can reuse this part. I prefer to reuse this part myself. So you take it and you just push it back into the socket where it came out.
With the smooth side out.
With the smooth side up now. Then you look in here. You want to inspect that seat because it can get a little bit of scale on it. Okay? Now, the simplest way to polish the seats is I take a pencil with some fine steel wool. I just spun that on there like a piece of cotton candy. Alright? And I take this and I just go down onto that seat, turn it around, and that will remove any of the remnants of scale or whatever. And then once again examine it. It's nice and shiny.
Hold it still.
Wait. Make sure I blow out the. You see in there?
Yes.
Now it's nice and shiny and clean. You've checked that. We come back in with our seal. I just follow this whole thing back in with the spring. Get this started. Okay. Now we're just tightening it back down. Now, as I counted 4 visible threads. Now I'm seeing 3 on one side. Now I'm seeing 4. Set. You can tell if you don't have it in far enough because this block will hit the face of it and it won't tighten all the way down. Now you put the top back on, and you don't necessarily have to tighten this as tight as it used to be, but you put 1 wrench on it. Mink. That one's maintained. So that's ready for installation. So we put that with our Steam 1. So how much time, Barb?
We've used 8 minutes and 20
Used
seconds.
8 minutes. Alright. Let's talk about the group just a little bit. Alright? We've gone through, we've cleaned, we've emeryed this off with some 400 grit paper. We've looked through the whole thing, made sure everything is fine. So these are the seals that we're going to install. Let's just gather up all our parts. That's the rod seal. Those are retained. These are the retainers for this. Okay, we'll need our pins and those crazy bird beak clips. We're going to go ahead and use those. And the roller. Okay, here's the cap nut. And here's the lock nut. And what else do we need? There's the bushing, the roller. Okay, we've looked through all of that. Here's the yoke. Here's the piston. Here's the screen. Whoa, that went the screen. Alright, these are all the parts that are going to go into this. Now, there's a couple of things to talk about here while I look for my little cap tool. Alright, there's my little cap tool. That's one of them. Alright. This is the old style piston. That it's a little beefier construction than the newer pistons. This is 1976, but most of them, the machines that you'll see, will have 4 holes right here on the edge. One equidistant holes that go through. It'll have them on the bottom, and it'll have them on the top. And the function of the holes is to act as they load the seal. That your seals will go on this way. Right? Your bottom seal goes with the V down, the top seal goes with the V up. Okay? In this manner. Now the holes, when your boiler is coming up to pressure is coming in, feeding into the group. When you have these small holes here, it actually pushes the lip of this seal outward and creates a better seal. The same thing happens on the face. These holes will, when you've got this in this orientation, when you're pushing down on the piston, those holes allow the water to kind of blow out the edges of the seal and create a better seal. And also, when it goes in the opposite direction, this minimizes the wear. In other words, the seal will just kind of drag along until you pull down on the lever and it blows the edges out, and it makes for a tighter seal. Another thing to notice here is that this is the original machining of the rod. You might have one that has a sloped shoulder. This has got a hard shoulder on this. If you have a sloped shoulder, it's been ground off by a technician along the road some way, because this makes it slightly easier to install, but the nut is flat on both sides. The nut is designed to go right down to that shoulder if you wish. Now, say for example La Pavoni, it has a sloped shoulder, but it also has a nut that's recessed under the bottom. So if you don't despair if you find that yours has been ground off. It just makes installation a little easier. It doesn't really change anything. And so I think what we'll do is we'll get a couple of things, small issues ready while we've got a little time on this video. Is that I want to take these old clips and make sure that they're not brittle. Otherwise I would change all 4 of them. So we just kind of squeeze those in a little bit and look over the parts and to see what we're going to do. Okay, so I take the inventory. I think my other clip is on here. Okay, this is a really important part, and so we'll stop here, and on the next segment we'll rebuild the group.